So what I wanted to talk about today was how we'd really been innovative. The old museum was a thing. It was a noun. You came, you looked in a case, perhaps, you pressed a button. If you came during school holidays, you saw a science show. And that was about it. That was about as much as people interacted with the museum. In my field, what you get credit for is being logical, being unemotional, being some timeless, logical edifice to knowledge and to tell the story. And what I'm here to say today is there's no such thing as the story. There is no black, there is no white, there is just grey and a whole world of colours. We decided to go a different way, and we decided to go a kind of Newcastle way. We create a Newcastle Museum way. And all the stuff in Newcastle Museum and the writing and the objects, and it was all pretty local and it was locally done. But there was a couple of experts that came in from outside to build cases or do that kind of thing from Canberra and Melbourne and Sydney. And they used to come up to me and they'd say, "Oh, Julie, look, we need to arrange a meeting," and then and I'd say, "Look, pull the pickle out, darling, it's Newcastle, just tell me, and if it's good, we'll do it, okay? We don't have to talk to anyone else, we'll just do it, okay?" When I was trying to think about why did we do this, why did we do different work than what our colleagues were doing around Australia and around the world, and it actually made me think that there were things that had seeped into my brain early on in life that I thought hadn't, and that's why I changed the title of my TEDx talk to 4 irritating things my father used to say and how they changed the Newcastle Museum. First irritating thing, there's no such thing as a stupid question, only stupid answers. Now, bizarrely enough, this is how I start any tour these days, and I actually believe that. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You can ask anything. You will never humiliate yourself. You can make a mistake. You can not know, and that's okay. The only responsibility is on the person who is answering that question to take it seriously. So we asked this stupid question. Who are we? Now, that was the question that we thought the museum was there to answer. Who are we? So we are 17-year-olds, as you do, and I went off to Merewether High School to a history class, and I sat down and I asked, who are we? These are the questions that we're answering. Who are your heroes? What do you do? What do you do for fun? And even this Model T Ford, this is the longest label that I've written in the entire museum, but at the top, that's what it says. There are many stories that this car and the museum can tell. What story would you have told? And then I give them 6 choices. Because most of the time, the question that kids ask is, how come your car looks like crap? So I go into Merewether, and I'm the only person in Australian museums that wasn't a teacher at one time. And the teacher saw me come in and said, "Oh, great, a grown-up, I'm off for a coffee." So I went in and I said, "You guys are going to create the new museum and we're answering who are we, and this is so exciting, and what themes would you pick?" And this one girl, Bethany, goes, "I hope it's not about coal, because coal's really boring." And I thought, oh shit, here we go. And then Jessica in the corner goes, "Shut up, Bethany, because my dad's a miner and I think coal's really important." And I thought, oh, here we go, cat fight. And so you can't have teenage girls fighting without everyone in the class getting involved. So then everyone starts, but Bethany says, "But coal is bad for the environment." But this other girl goes, "But coal has created our town." And the fight starts, and the fights continued the whole time for 12 hours. And it was awesome, because that's how you discover what's important to people. You actually fight. You don't have to agree all the time. So they said things like, "Well, we think it should be about youth." And I said, "Well, what's youth?" And they said, "Well, you know, young people." And I said, "Look, dude, when I was 9, 16 was ancient." I said, "But I'm pushing 40 and 16 looks pretty damn young from here. And I got 80-year-old guys who call me a sweet young thing, so you tell me what young is. When does young start and stop?" So we had this huge, fantastic discussion about all this kind of stuff. Now, it was funny, I was reading my bio, as you do, in the coffee break, and I saw that in my bio we'd had 40,000 visitors. Well, we've had 55,000 since that bio's been written. Since August the 4th, we've had 55,000 people who have come to our free museum, a free service of Newcastle City Council. I'd just like, you to know, we're the good news story in City Council. But the biggest rise that we've found is a rise in 15 to 35-year-olds. These people do not come to museums. They are coming to our museum, and those 17-year-olds back in 2006 who said, this is what's important to us, this is what we think people would like, were right. We ask as many questions of our visitors as we answer. There's that novice again, there's that humiliation. And that leads to my second father quote. The more I know, the more I realise the less I know, and that some bastard out there knows more than me. We assumed that everybody knew more than us. We assumed that seeing as how I'm the curator of everything from Permian era fossils through to personal computers and mobile phones, taking in everything in between, there's always someone that knows more. So what do you do when someone knows more? You ask them. And that's what we've done. And the first thing that you see, the first piece of words that you see in that museum is not the Newcastle story or our Newcastle story or yours, but it's a. And we actually acknowledge up there on the screen, everybody has a story to tell, and we've tried to include as many as possible. We hope this exhibition leads you to discover more stories and realise that all of us make history every day. A Newcastle story is our history and our future. Because how on earth are you supposed to see change if you don't know where you've come from? And things like asking the experts. What we did for every exhibition is we got a group together. So we get the ex-workers of BHP together. Tell us what it was like to work for the BHP. In Newcastle, if it's got a the in front of it, it's very important. The hill, the junction, the BHP, you know it counts. Which brings me to my next slide. Now you can tell this is a little bit later. This is about 18 or 19. This is your bloody home, stop treating it like a hotel. 6 years ago I went to a conference and there was an Aboriginal elder from out west and he was asked to give the keynote to a museum audience. And he said the wisest thing, and it has stuck with me and it has changed the way that I live. He said, look, you guys go on all the time about blackfellas and their dreaming and you tell the stories and you collect our objects. He said, but you guys, you're waiting for the boat. You think you're tourists. You've come to this country, you've been here 200 years. It's time to make your own dreaming. It's time when you walk those streets to listen to your elders and to tell the kids the stories and to feel a connection with the place, because if you don't feel connected to that place and you think, oh, well, that's just blackfella business, we're just here for a little while and then we're going to go back to England, then you will treat your country differently. You've all heard the expression, the past is a foreign country, they do things differently there. But see, we're all migrants from that foreign country. We are all migrants from the past. And for some of us, it doesn't really affect us much, you know, it might change the way we look, we might have something different at Christmas dinner. For some of us, it changes our religion, our belief, how we work, how we walk around, what education we do. So you're all migrants from that foreign country, and you need to understand your own culture, and your culture is the past. This is the Faces Wall. So we put these screens in so we can constantly change the face of Newcastle. And what you can do and what people have done and what makes me so happy is people bring me in a disc with a picture of someone's important. This is my choir mistress. She's really important. She's made a difference to our town. This is my kid. This is my auntie when she was Mayday Queen. So we put them up on the wall and then you become part of the story. You are the history of Newcastle. What you've done is important. Another thing that we do to put people in the picture is we've got mirrors everywhere. Now, I've got a theory that most people are vain. They walk past a mirror, they check themselves out. And I'm sure all of you have been checking yourself out in front of civic theatres. What I wanted to do in a really simple way was when people leave that museum, they see themselves in there. There might not be a story about something, they might not have, you know, a relative that was a soccer player, they might not have anything else in there. But every time they leave, they see themselves in our space and they're part of that museum and they're part of that museum story. This is our last remains wall. Now, this is about war dead. And we've got some amazing objects in there. Up here in the corner, we've got a biscuit. Looks like a Sao from World War II. 70-year-old bikie. Pretty cool. This is from a man who was a Newcastle doctor who died a couple of months before the end of World War II in a plane crash. In here, there's a rifle that was dug out of the mud at Bullecourt. It had one bullet fired and the next bullet jammed when the trigger was pulled and was found in the mud. So you know that that is from someone's death. Over here in the corner, these are the objects that make me cry. This is why I don't work at the War Mem. This is the last remains of driver Jack Groffin. So when Mrs. Groffin got this package from the army, she couldn't cope. And I don't blame her. And then right in the middle as well, we've got a bugle with Walter, who played the bugle, and that played at Lone Pine. So what we're doing by this is we're raising a huge amount of emotion. I had staff members crying. So we don't think that we can raise that level of emotion or talk about these things without letting somebody else have a go. That's what interactivity is. Interactivity isn't pressing a button on a computer. Interactivity is actually saying to your visitors, tell us your story. We're interested. You make an impact on this museum. People want a chance to actually say, this is important to me. So we've been collecting these, and this goes over and over again. And the emotion of it, I want people to feel emotion in this museum. I want people to feel absolutely terrified when they sit in BHP and the huge ladle goes overhead and we have this I'm going to wreck it for you if you haven't gone. We have this pretend industrial accident where it drops and I sit in my office and I hear the kids go, ah! And I think, beautiful, that's brilliant. And down Beaumont Street, we've got an interactive that's all about the 6 o'clock swill. So I spray beer in there so it smells a bit manky and you stick your head in and you hear Barry and Betty having a chat, trying to get people out at closing time, talking about why they removed furniture and tiled the walls of pubs and put them near workplaces when the 6 o'clock swill was in place. And you're grown-ups, you can work out why they tiled the walls. And I want people to laugh. And I want people to feel fear when they stick their head in the coal mine disaster interactive and they hear the sounds of a coal mine falling down on them and they hear the words spoken by the guys who were trapped and had to leave their colleagues in there who died. I want them to feel that. And I want them to go into entertainment section and I want them to see Sue Cruikshank's outfit and Mark's shirt and Dean Perry's tap boots and I want them to see John Bell's theatre from a kid and I want them to be inspired. So what we're saying is that visitors constantly change our world and we keep reinforcing back to them that you're the story, we're a shell. So what we actually are asking them to do is to feel in the museum, to actually feel the museum, to do the museum, do all these different things. Come along, make a badge, do this, do that, try something out you haven't seen before, touch a snake. And we want them to be the museum. We want their stories of everything from those really big stories about migration and war and belonging and belief, right down to the fact that there used to be a dog circus on Beaumont Street, that one dog was reputed to be Catholic because it didn't eat fish. It only ate fish on Fridays. How cool is that? I want to go to the Oasis on Beaumont Street and think, man, there used to be a tightrope walker and a dog circus here, because then I see that cycle. Because I know that the ground I'm standing on Beaumont Street used to be wallaby hunting ground. And then it was something else. And then it was a pub, and by now it's probably a chemist. So what we've done is we've turned the word museum from a thing, from a noun, from a static thing that you come and you do because you're a good person and that's what good people do, to a verb. So to museum is to learn everything from how to make a latte, because our entire cafe is staffed by trainees. Everyone should learn at the museum. It's not just about education programs, to how to make steel, to feel how your city feels, to feel the grief and loss, to raise emotions, to have joy and laughter. We want them to belong to a long and continuously changing story. Because what we want people who come to the museum to feel is that they matter, that you are making history every single day. So when you walk out of here, you walk your dreaming, you remember your stories that your elders tell you, you tell them to your kids, You share that because the world keeps turning and the choices that we make a difference. They matter and they matter to us. And at this point, I'm walking through the arches and I'm just about to leave, and this is Stewie. Now, Stewie's a local guy. He played the bugle for us that ABC recorded. He played the last post. And what Stewie's actually saying to me just at that moment, which bizarrely enough was captured on film, which makes me really happy, was that he always loved museums and he always goes to museums. He's worked in archives, he's done digitisation projects, he's done all this stuff, but he'd never been to a museum about himself. So we went out and we sold this concept because we wanted people to know that Newcastle deserved better. They deserved their story told. And we've just been really happy that we've been able to provide the shell to tell the story of Newcastle. Which leads to the last irritating thing, just in case you've been counting. What's the point of knowing something if you don't tell someone? Now, my dad's a prof, and I think maybe that was a little bit because, like, if you don't tell someone, then someone else will steal the idea. But, and another one which is offline. He said to me once. He said, "Look, Julie, if you really know your stuff, you can explain it to a professor or a 5-year-old. If you only kind of know something, you can only explain it to a professor."